Hey guys, how's it going? It's HaHaBear. Today I'm going to be doing something that I've been planning for a very long time. Today I'll be creating an absolute positioning mouse. What this means is that I'll be combining the absolute positioning aspect of a tablet with the form factor of a mouse. The reason why I'm doing this is because I've been really struggling with using tablet pens in general. I've been using this tablet in general, for also gameplay for more than 5 years now. And yet, after all this time, I couldn't really get used to it. It didn't matter what pen I used. I tried using tennis grips, I tried adding just generic pen grips in general, but none of that really made it feel right, and I couldn't really get used to it even after all these years. And when I used mouse for also, I really couldn't weather this gigantic storm that is called mouse drift. So I wanted to create something that would have the best of both worlds, a device that can hold like a mouse and move like a tablet. This way I can be both comfortable and accurate at the same time. Now I've seen some people have this idea before. I've seen Mafam use a tennis ball, like a tennis ball with a tablet pen stuck into it so that it will have a mouse-like grip with absolute positioning. And seen some people literally drill a hole into the mouse, kind of like grip it like this. And I've seen some janky ideas, but I personally wanted to make something that really feels like a regular mouse without any significant deviation from how a normal mouse would really feel, and have the absolute positioning at the same time. So before I get into the actual building, I want to explain what's going on here first. This is Zowie FK1. This is a mouse that I've been using for about 4.5 years. I gave it to my sister because it started breaking down, and she even said that this wasn't really working too well. So I kind of took it back and said, okay, I'm going to be using this as a sacrifice. I really liked how this mouse felt. The one that I have right now is EC2A, also by Zowie, but it doesn't have the same feel to it. I like this grip a little bit better. And it's also broken, so I can do whatever with it. As for the tablet body doesn't really matter. It would have been nicer if this was just completely flat so I could use it like a mouse pad. The reason why I chose this is mostly because this tablet pen. Let me first open up this tablet pen so that I can demonstrate it to you guys. You can open it up by removing the pen buttons on the side. You can pull it out, and as you can see, the internals on this thing is quite short. This is much shorter than other tablet pens like Wacom CTO480 tablet pen and such, which means that it was going to be able to sit perfectly well inside this mouse without sticking out too much. And before I get into the details, if you guys can see what's going on here. Okay, so you see these coils here. How this tablet works, usually these tablet pens are passive, which means it doesn't use battery. How this works is that this tablet is going to be creating electromagnetic waves, which is going to be picked up by these coils here. It's going to convert that into electric current, and it's going to store that energy inside these capacitors, and it's going to do all the calculations like pressure point, etc. It's going to send that information back into the coils in terms of current, and it's going to create another electromagnetic wave, send it to the tablet body, which is going to receive, amplify, and it's going to give you all the data. With that said, the tablet pen usually works best if the coils are perpendicular to the surface. So if your pen is like so, it is best if the tablet surface is perpendicular, not in a slanted way, so that the coils can pick up the waves better. So I'll try my best to somehow take out the coil, kind of move it sideways, and so that this part can stay upright. I've done a lot of research, and I was kind of like fiddling around with these before. I'm not sure how it will turn out, but let's get building. If you can see here, this coil here, it is soldered onto this PCB, which means that I have to desolder some of these two contact points here. And I also want to see if I can actually remove this PCB off from this plastic body so that I can kind of position it well inside this mouse so that it can kind of sit in a way that it doesn't interfere too much with the internals. I don't want to mess with the internals too much because doing so will mess up with the weight and such. Okay, so before I get into the pen itself, I want to first off open up this tablet, this mouse. Okay, so now if you open it up, everything will fall apart. Mouse feel, I'll leave it over here. As you can see, there are some connections here and there. I tried taking apart this connector here, this USB cable connector. I tried pulling it out, it didn't really work. I think it was, the whole thing was just kind of soldered onto this, so there was no way that I could take it out. I thought this was some kind of a plug-in situation, but I don't think that's how it works. There are two more screws here. I'm going to be taking those out also. Okay, so this is the PCB for the entire mouse. As I said, I don't want to remove too much of this because this adds to the whole feel of the tablet, the mouse itself. Removing this will kind of mess up with the weight that I already love of this mouse. So I didn't want to get rid of too much of that. I was kind of thinking that I could maybe position it so that it sits like this. But I also have to make sure that the coil stays perpendicular to the surface that the mouse sits on. Okay, so let me do a little bit of thinking here. Okay, after doing some planning and stuff like that, I decided that I'll try to unsolder these coil contacts here so that I can find a way that I can position these coils in a perpendicular way somewhere inside this mouse base, preferably in the center, but at the same time making sure that it doesn't obstruct with anything that goes inside this mouse other than this piece right here, which I believe has to do with the sensor. But if you kind of put that there, the coil can't really stay in the center. I want to make sure that this coil can be in the center because the center of the mouse is usually where the sensor is, so I wanted to make sure that I can also replicate that. And yeah, so to do that, I have to desolder these contacts. So I can show you guys on that here, but it's just simple desoldering. It doesn't really require much. I'll do it outside of camera. I'll be right back. Okay, a little update. I was able to desolder these two contact wires that was making contact with the PCB here, and I also took out a screw that allowed me to take out this PCB that I'm going to be using, putting it into the mouse. And I think all I need from this is to make sure that I can pull out this coil tip end, but the problem is onto whatever this plastic thing is, there's this weird glue. I'm not sure if you can see here, this little green stuff here. I have to pull this out and make sure that I don't snap anything here. So I'll do that real quick. I don't think I can show you that because it's a delicate process. I'll be right back. Okay, I was able to separate this this tip coil end. I'll try to resolder these, and hopefully the pen still works, or whatever the internal of this thing. I'll be right back. I'll solder these on. Okay, as you guys can see, I soldered on these coil contacts here again. This way I can make sure that this PCB stays as flat as and out of all the other stuff as possible, and still have this coil be staying perpendicular, so it can be something like this. so that the coil can stay centered and perpendicular and the PCB can stay unobtrusive of other stuff going on. Okay, I also have to decide how I'm gonna deal with this cable here. Yeah, I'll cut it over here. I think that's the easiest here. I'm just gonna snap these cables right at the base here. I don't have a scissors, so I'll use this instead. Okay. Goodbye, mouse. Or what is left of it. Now as I said, I'm using this basically for weight. Okay, I believe this is the sensor or the optical sensor. I don't exactly know how, mouse works in general, but this is at the exact center of the mouse. This is what I believe has to do with the sensors and all. I know this is going to cause pain in many people's eyes, but I'm gonna snap this out because this is getting in the way of the center where this internal is going to be in. So I'm gonna take this out and I'll be right back. Okay, now I removed the sensor that was sitting on the center of this PCB. And now what I'm gonna be doing is placing this coil, somehow hold it in the center. I wish I had a glue gun. I could have brought it from my work. I'll try to tape it around and see if I can kind of hold it straight up. Okay, so what I just did is I kind of centered this. This is very temporary. I'm gonna try to grab a glue gun so that this sensor kind of stays in the center of this. Nowhere I kind of put a tape so that it can stay inside. It's really janky right now. I'll try to do something better with it. And then the PCB of the internal of the tablet pen sits right between this mouse PCB and this base. It's not really obstructing anything at all. So I think I can go ahead and try to first of all try to make sure this doesn't go anywhere crazy, and try to put everything together. Okay, so what I did here is this is the back side, this is the underside of the whole device. As you can see, the coil is sitting at the center of where the sensor was supposed to be. This whole thing now is jankily centered and kind of held into place with the help of a bunch of tape. And this is temporary. I'm gonna be using glue gun if this works well. I'm gonna put the whole thing now inside this mouse, and hopefully this thing seals shut and feels completely fine. Oh, before I do that, let me test the cursor. Is it working? Why is it not working? Excuse me? What's going on? What's going on? It was working like 10 seconds ago. What is going on? Okay, what I realized was that I had to cut the PCB in half. The reason for that is the PCB was actually interfering with the electromagnetic field, electromagnetic wave that was sent into the receiver here, and because of that, I had to cut the PCB out exactly where the sensor was going to be in the center. So I cut around it, but I kept the buttons alive just because I felt like, having the buttons was just gonna be fun. So I'll try to put everything together as is. This, I think, is broken. I don't know what is broken, but these are relatively straight lines. Like left and right is pretty straight. Up and down is pretty straight. I can draw squares reasonably okay with it. But as soon as I start drawing diagonals, look what happens. It curves like crazy. What the hell is going on? Okay, I think I kind of finally figured out what was really wrong. The actual problem is, as you can see, I have the tip installed. What I used to do was kind of try to put this thing together without the tip, so it would kind of just sit without the tip. So if I were to move around like this, move back and forth, you'll see that it curves like crazy. That's kind of weird, right? But if I put the tip back in, let me do this 1 sec. Now you'll see that the tip is back in. You'll see that now the swiggly thing has disappeared. So I think the tip has something to do with the whole stabilization process. I don't know how it works, but that's one thing for sure that I finally got it figured out. I have to leave the tip in, which means that I have to make sure that this tip doesn't actually touch, because that will register as a click. I don't want it to stay clicked the entire time, so I have to make sure that this thing stays floating with a little bit of gap in between. And that's gonna be a little bit difficult, but I'll try to do my best. Okay, I did some ghetto engineering. This is a rolled piece of paper. I kind of folded in half and then it kind of makes like a little tube. What I'm gonna do is put this into this tube in a way that the tip will not interfere with the tube, but it will sit just so that this plastic will sit on top of this paper here. That way, the tip will kind of stay floating without ever actually touching the surface. Okay, I kind of got the whole setup now ready to be glued on. I put a tape so that, I put a tape right underneath where the sensor is supposed to be so that the glue doesn't overflow everywhere. And as you can see, finally, if I start moving, the cursor will go back and forth in a relatively straight line. This is as straight as it can be, as opposed to whatever this wiggly stuff was. Okay, now all I need to do is glue gun this exact paper pointing device in place and put the cover on, and I think we're good to go. Yeah, that only took like 100 hours of planning and a lot of, stress and pain, but it's all good. Okay, now as you can see, the glue is drying up. I made sure to put this as perpendicular as I can, which it kind of does look like it is very perpendicular, looking at it from all angles. And if you see this, you'll see that it still has that straight movement, which is perfect. Now I'm gonna let this glue dry for a little bit more, and then I'm gonna put the cover on, and I think we're gonna be good to go. I'll be right back. Okay, finally it's done. It's over. I put the it's just the slippery whatever sticker thingy on the back. Now it's covering up all the screws, and as you can see, the sensor in the middle is now replaced with literally a tablet pen. Whatever this white thing that you see is the glue gun glue. It's covered by the tape so it doesn't overflow, and it's surrounded by the paper so that the tip doesn't touch the surface. Perfect. As you can see, if I move around, it literally works. Man, this is the best feeling ever. And unlike last time, if I move the cursor in square, it moves in square, and if I go diagonally, it goes diagonally. It doesn't do all wiggly jiggly weird stuff. Oh yeah, by the way, the clicks don't work. These are all phantom clicks. I made sure to retain all the mouse feel to it, so the scroll is alive, clicks are alive, even the side buttons are alive. And of course the only different thing would be that it's not really a mouse, it's a tablet. This is basically a tablet pen. So if you're now asking for a grip, I just grab it like I grab onto a mouse. See you next time, guys. Oh, by the way, before I go, if I was actually really good at like engineering and wiring and stuff, what I could have done is make sure that this button correlates to, the side button that exists in the PCB of the tablet pen. and the left button, the right button also, and maybe I could do something with the scroll too. But I don't really know how to do the whole wiring. But whatever this PCB is alive over here, actually no, I cut that in half. So, but I think I could have just used the switch portion, make it so that it connects to the PCB somehow, and it would be that I would literally be using a tablet pen, but it would have the clicks of a mouse. That would have been kind of cool if I knew what I was doing, but I don't know that, so that's kind of out of the window for now. Okay, bye for real.